Oh, you left my heart wide open. You threw it on the ground. Oh no, but where it is now, it's waiting to be found. But then last night I tried to call you. It rang once, then straight to voicemail. And my heart, it can't take this hurting. In the meantime, I'll be searching. I'm gonna keep on searching. I'll be waiting. Maybe I'll hear you say yeah. Oh yeah, I'll be waiting. I'm waiting for. I've always been so optimistic. See, I'd push through thin and thick. We used to risk it all, but now it's all down the drain. And we used to stay in our lane, but you left me with the pain and the shame. The shame of being some old fool. Oh, now what was the rule? Girl, you've got me feeling like I am a fool. Yeah, I'm waiting for. Oh yeah, I'll be waiting. I'm waiting for. I've been searching all over the world, hoping to find someone new. And then each place I seem to go, it leads me right back to you. I've always loved you to the core. I never wanted anything more. I never wanted, never wanted, never wanted, never wanted. Oh no, I'm waiting for. Oh yeah, I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for. I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you.
Ani Bojo, everyone. Welcome to our IPA's online workshop series. I'm really excited today to be joined by Veronica Johnny and Stevie Salas. So my name is GR Grit. I'm coming to you from Robinson Huron Treaty Territory in what is now called Sudbury, Ontario. I'm on the traditional territory of the Tikmashing Anishinaabeg and of Wanapete First Nation and of many Métis peoples who have come through here and who have settled here, or who are from here. So I'm Anishinaabe and Métis from this territory, and it's really great to be home. So, like I said, we're joined today by Veronica Johnny. She has a special treat for us today. she's brought a guest with her. So, world-renowned producer and guitarist Stevie Salas
Hey.
is here. Hello, is here to talk about
Cut.
his latest music and film projects, advice for Canadian artists striving to bring their work to international audiences, and advocacy at the intersections of Indigenous art and culture. So Stevie Salas has sold over 2 million solo albums around the world. Guitar Player magazine named him one of the top 50 guitarists of all time. He received a Native American Lifetime Achievement Award. As a guitar player, writer, and producer, Stevie has worked with Mick Jagger, Bootsy Collins, Bill Laswell, Public Enemy, Michael Hutchence, was, Terrence Trent D'Arby, Koshi Inaba, and Tak Matsumoto from BZ Japan, Ronald Shannon Jackson, Eddie Money, Jerry Cantrell, Heavy Glow, and over 75 other major labor records. In 2009, he played on the #1 global hit Dead and Gone with Justin Timberlake and T.I. As a solo artist, he's recorded for Island Records, East West Warner, EMI, and others, and has had music publishing contracts as a writer with Island Music, Polygram Music, Virgin Music, and Fuji Pacific. Over 50 of his compositions were recorded and released on major labels. As an executive producer, his credits include Rumble, The Indians Who Rock the World, which I'm really excited to see, The Water Walker, and TV series include Arbor Live and Dreamcatcher Bios. Stevie was also a consultant and music director for American Idol. So a little bit about Veronica Johnny as well, for those who do not know her. She's a dear friend of mine, and I love her very much. Veronica Johnny is a two-spirit, multidisciplinary Cree Dene Indigenous artist. She's a member of the Athabasca Chippewa First Nation, was born and raised in Fort Smith, in Northwest Territories, and presently lives in Northern Ontario, which I'm really happy about because it means she's closer to me. So Ms. Johnny has emerged as a dynamic force in the Canadian music and arts industry, working as a performer, producer, manager, promoter, writer, arts educator, workshop facilitator, speaker, entrepreneur, youth mentor, cultural knowledge keeper, and Cree language advocate. She's a singer-songwriter, contemporary Indigenous hand drummer, and also the frontwoman, vocalist, co-producer, and manager of the Johnnies. Known for their high-energy performances, the Johnnies are Indigenous-fronted rock and roll band and featuring all original music. The Johnnies released a full-length album called Leathers and Feathers in June of 2020. She's the founder of Indigened, an Indigenous arts education business that focuses on creating understanding and self-healing through arts and culture workshops. It would be shorter to enumerate all the things that Veronica doesn't do. She's an incredible artist, and I'm really so grateful and happy to welcome Veronica in here today, and also Stevie. So Veronica, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Grace, and thank you so much, and welcome, Stevie. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you have some time for us, my friend.
Well, I thought we were on an hour from now, and I was just down the street in my house in Austin, Texas, running. So I'm sweating like crazy right now. So I put the towel around me. I didn't have time to shower.
Yeah, right on. You know, that's a big thing for self-care, really, right? Is working out daily, getting that sweat going.
When you're 100 years old like me, you don't want to look 100 years old, so you got to work out.
That's right. That's right. Awesome, man. So we're here to talk to you and to learn from you, Stevie. And I'm so excited that you're here because Dave and I, you know, working with you over the years and being friends with you has been such a great influence on us. And just like, I just can't even believe that I'm sitting here presenting you to the world and to my people who know me and being connected with you. And it's awesome because you're also one of the most humble rock stars I've ever met. And I read your book. And your humility comes through so much in your writing and in your book. And I just really loved your story. And so I just want to say that you're inspirational in so many ways to me. And I just really wanted to show everyone your book and how much you love it when people do this.
Yeah. Oh, everyone does that, huh? They take pictures from all over the world and send them and post them online like that. I thought that was so cool. Whoever the first person that figured that out became like a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And now I did it.
Yeah. You got to post, now you got to shoot. Oh, I should have shot a photo of that and then posted it on social media.
We'll do that. We'll do that. I'll do that, man.
That book just came out. It was #1 again a couple of months ago. It came out, well, maybe it was about 6 months ago. It came out in Japan, written in Japanese now. It's in all Japanese language. And I think it's my first foreign version of the book. And it was #1. It was #1 on the book chart. So again, it was #1 also on Amazon for a while. It was pretty cool. I'm a lucky guy.
That's so awesome, Stevie. Well, it's because you work hard, and that's obvious by you fitting us in and creating some time for us up here in Canada. It's really awesome to be visiting with you. So I want to start out by asking you, in your story you talk about being a homeless guitar player sleeping on the couch in a studio, yeah. And going to, and then moving on to stadiums. And what really got me with your story was that you didn't give up. And I'd like you to talk about that not giving up.
You know what I learned? When I was writing the book, I learned a lot of things. First of all, writing the book was the hardest thing I ever had to do. And if I would have had my choice, once I started it, I might never have finished it, but I took the money and I didn't want to give the money back from the publisher. And so I had to finish it. But what the book was a great thing for me, because what it did was it showed me throughout my life, I've had some amazing, amazing moments, but I also had some horrible moments. That was my alarm telling me I needed to get home to do my interview with you. So I see I was an hour off. So I was supposed to be, yeah, okay. So I had horrible moments like being homeless or being deserted by my mother. Things like that ended up putting me in position for amazing things to happen. Meaning, like for instance, being homeless in Los Angeles. I moved to LA January 1985. I left my parents' house after high school and moved up there. And by August, I was homeless and I didn't want to move home. I was lucky that a friend, David Parada, and a guy called Rick Parada and David Pahoa from the Plimsolls let me sleep on the couch at Baby O Studios. And it was the worst time of my life. It was the worst summer of my life. Usually every summer in August, I'd be at home in San Diego surfing every day and being on the beach. And here I was in Hollywood. It was smoggy. I had no money. I was sleeping on the couch at night and I was sweeping floors. All my clothes were in plastic bags, like garbage bags. I just put them in garbage bags and tied them up. But I met George Clinton from Parliament Funkadelic in that studio. And he asked me to play on his album. And that started my career. So sometimes in life I found, and this happens a lot, that when things are awful, perhaps there's a reason you're there and you need to see it through. Because almost every horrible thing that's happened in my life has caused a reaction of something great to happen afterwards. Just about. And so that was the lesson I really learned.
Wow, that's amazing. There's so much in your storytelling in your book. There's just so much to learn from, and especially as a musician. And so anyone out there who, if you haven't read Stevie's book, you haven't purchased it, really go out, have a read of it. I wanted also to talk to you about getting on with Rod Stewart, and the part in your book, I hope it's okay that I bring it up, where you talk about being having precognition.
I did.
And yeah, and that it was because of that you felt like that gig was yours even before it was.
It's really weird. It's totally true. I was having, here's another bad thing that happened. I get my first, I had a big break. George Clinton was a huge big break, and then I went on to Bootsy Collins, and then I met a guy called Don Was through Bootsy Collins, who I didn't know who he was, but I produced some stuff with him and played guitar on his record called What Up Dog. And next thing you know, we have a #1 record called Walk the Dinosaur. I'm on MTV 100 times a day. And I'm like, all of a sudden I was like homeless in 85, and by 87, I'm on MTV all day long. I'm in England now all the time. And but I haven't toured other than my high school band that I used to tour around the colleges in the Southwest in. So I get my first tour. Andy Taylor quits Duran Duran. He has a huge record out, and he hires me to be his lead guitar player, or his guitar player, because we both played lead. And it's a huge break. We're going to open up for the Psychedelic Furs. It's 1987, a Psychedelic Furs band I love. And our first gig's the Los Angeles Forum. So my dream's coming true. I'm going to play sports arenas. This is it. This is what I live for. First gig, Los Angeles Forum. Second gig's the San Diego Open Air Amphitheater. So I'm from San Diego. So I get the gig. All my friends in high school buy tickets for the concert. My mom and dad are coming. Everybody's coming. I'm opening for the Psychedelic Furs in San Diego. And Andy Taylor fires me right before the first day of the tour. Fires me. And I am crushed. I mean, I'm so embarrassed and I'm so hurt. I'm like, it was like I could have died. I had to call my friends. I'm not going to be there. I got fired. It was so humiliating, man. It was just humiliating. Almost as bad as me sweating on your show right now because I just got done working out. So I'm humiliated. I mean, humiliated. It's like the worst thing in my life. But what it did was I told myself after that point, I go, I am going to just focus on my own stuff. And I'm not going to ever let this happen to me again. But it was a good thing that Andy fired me because he was managed by Rod Stewart's manager. And Rod Stewart was getting ready. He was making a new album with the Power Station. And my thing was funk and rock. I was doing Bootsy Collins and George Clinton and Was Not Was, but I was a rock and roll guy. And Rod was using the Power Station with Tony Thompson from Chic on drums and Carmine Rojas from David Bowie. I had Carmine Rojas's poster on the wall in my bedroom at my mom and dad's house. All of a sudden, I get a call to go play with Rod, and I get that gig. And that gig was 5 nights at the LA Forum and 5 nights at Madison Square Gardens and a private airplane everywhere. So the humiliation of Andy Taylor turned out to be something way better for me in the end. You know, I just want to get that point across to everybody out there, because when you get your ass kicked, you just want to say, forget it. But sometimes you just got to keep going. You know, you got to keep going. And you're going to find that it happened for a reason. If you can just figure that out and get to that point, you can't force it. These things just happen. It's crazy. So yeah, all of a sudden I'm playing with Rod Stewart and my whole life changes and I'm like loaded. I'm in a private airplane everywhere and limos and supermodels and Playboy bunnies and all that stupid stuff you think that's important when you're, 23 years old or whatever. And my whole life changed. It was amazing.
Well, that's one of the big things that I thought we could talk about today is thinking bigger, which is what you were doing, which is what you're trying to help me do, I think, in the projects currently involved in, is you want me to think bigger. You want me to think globally, internationally. And so let's talk about how thinking bigger went into Rumble and the success of Rumble.
Well, think about this. When I first played Madison Square Gardens in 1988, I walked up on the stage at Soundcheck. It was my dream always to play Madison Square Garden. And I always believed that I was going to play Madison Square Garden. I just always believed. Oh, back to my precognition though, real quick. Before Rod called me, I was having dreams about Rod Stewart. And I'm not dreams like, sex dreams. I'm talking about, I had this dream like I was out in a cabin in the woods hanging out, and this Ferrari, a red Lamborghini drove up. And it was Rod, and he was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it's like, I knew him, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, "I rented a cabin down there." And we were talking, and I wake up like, "Oh, why was I dreaming about? I'm in a cabin in the woods with some gal and Rod Stewart and some girl driving by on a dirt road in a Lamborghini, and we talk, and it's like he's my friend." And sure shit, and 3 months later, I'm playing Miami Dolphins Stadium with him. It's just, and I had more than one dream. It was like really weird. It was really weird, but I go on stage at Madison Square Gardens on the first day at Soundcheck. We were doing 3 sold out nights there for the first run. And I got on my hands and knees and I kissed the stage. It was like, it's Madison Square Gardens. And I thought, honestly, I am the first Native American to ever play Madison Square Gardens. I don't know why, I just thought that. I had no idea, right? Little did I know I wasn't even close to the first Native American to play Madison Square Garden. So later in my life, as I started to learn about Robbie Robertson and I knew all about Jesse Ed Davis because he played with Rod Stewart before I played with Rod Stewart. I just didn't know he was a Native American. I just didn't know. I had no idea. His name wasn't like Johnny Red Cloud or something. So he just had a name, Jesse Ed Davis. I remember that name. And he was playing with Elton John. And he was playing with John Lennon, and he was playing with Ringo Starr. I mean, he was like a legend. And he was on all these Rod Stewart records. And I was literally learning his guitar parts on some songs. So I come to find out all these years later when I go to make Rumble, or first we did a Smithsonian exhibit. And I first learned a lot from a guy in Ontario named Brian Wright McLeod, who wrote a book about Native American music, the history of Native American recorded music, going all the way back to the early 1900s. And he was the inspiration for me to go get this done. But yeah, so Rumble was a way of me sharing this knowledge that I knew, that I wanted all other Native people to know. I wanted Native people to understand that you can have a role model that is not from 150 years ago. You know, sure, you can love Geronimo or Sitting Bull or whatever, but there's guys that did it in the modern world against all odds. And whatever their reason was, Robbie Robertson was half Jewish, half Mohawk. He just kept the Mohawk part secret. It's an interesting story to know why. Jesse Ed Davis, there was no hiding it. You know, he was on stage with George Harrison during the Bangladesh concert, and he looks like a classic, gigantic, kick your ass Indian standing next to Eric Clapton there, right? So it was an interesting story to find out how different people approached it, and also how everybody that I'd worked with, you know, I'd worked with Steven Tyler and Aerosmith, and Steven Tyler would be like, oh my God, you know, Jesse Ed Davis. He called him Jesse Edwin Davis. I worshiped him. And I started to realize that all these superstars worshiped these Native musicians. And I thought to myself again, if Steven Tyler and Eric Clapton, all the greatest musicians in the history of rock and roll, worship this small group of Native American musicians, Native American people need to know about these guys, because, you know, they're worshiping Biggie Smalls or whoever, which is fine, but forget it, man. You got your own guys here that have done some incredible things. And that's why I did the film. I didn't know it was going to change written history. I didn't know it was going to become a history course at universities across North America and in high schools. I didn't know any of that. And I'd like to say I did, so I look like I'm a genius, but really I just tried to make a film that inspired Native American people. That's all I tried to do. It was my way of giving back.
And thank you for giving us that, because it has changed lives. It is the real history. It is the truth. And so many people need to see the truth that's been hidden for so long, and that history. And I can remember being at the opening in Toronto, and I have a really funny story, if I can take a moment just to share that story. Where
I was there, right?
Sorry, you were there.
Okay.
I was one of the last of two people that entered the studio, the theater, and it was because I was rush line. I wasn't able to afford tickets, but me and my friend sat in the rush line, and we were praying to Jesse Ed Davis, and we were praying to, you know, all of these musicians, going like, please help us get in, please help us get in. And we were like the last people let in, and they're like, run, you can't even go to the bathroom, like just get in there. And we run in, and they closed the door behind us, and they put us in the VIP seating because that's all that was left. Wow. And you were right there, and you came and you gave me a big hug, and I just felt like such a rock star.
Yeah, okay, I like that. That's a good story.
Yeah. It was so awesome. And then the movie started, right? And it was just like, oh my goodness. And I understand that you have so much on the cutting room floor, like that there was even enough, I think, in the after talk, in the discussion, I think someone even said like, there's enough for like another one. There was so much that you couldn't show.
Well, you figure Slash said 3 lines, but I've got an hour of Slash. Steven Tyler said 3 lines. Funny, I got an hour of Steven Tyler. I have Steven Tyler singing. He'd sit in front of me and goes, you know, when you start listening to the blues and you listen to Charlie Patton, and he goes, hey, no, he just starts singing. I was just dying, you know, because I've known Steven Tyler since I played with him on the MTV Awards in 1988 when I was a kid. We became friends. For some reason, he befriended me, and he's been amazing to me ever since. I don't know why. He even texts my son Shane. Hey Shane, what are you doing? You know, like Shane wrote, like, Shane really likes your Skittles commercial. Like, he writes right back, tell Shane it came out better than I thought. You know, so he was like the whole thing with all that went on with this thing for me was incredible, because I didn't know it was going to be so big. I didn't know that Rumble was going to be such a big deal. It turned out to be such a huge deal.
Absolutely, and it still is. And I want to talk about how your latest film project, The Water Walker. What can you tell us about The Water Walker?
Okay, well, many years ago, I was producing an Indigenous band in Australia named Yothu Yindi. They had this project with their kids. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. But I was flying back and forth to Australia producing this really amazing band. And they were really popular in the late 80s. They toured with NXS and all these bands. And their kids were now in a band, East Journey they were called, I think. And they had the kids and the Yothu members, because the lead singer of Yothu died. And they were putting this project back together. And they asked me to produce. So I flew down there and I was going to just do one song. I ended up rewriting the one song with them, changing the key. The singer's like, I can't sing that key. And I go, yeah, you can. And, you know, I just did what I do when I produce any band. And I made them, I just do what I do. And the song came out insane. All of a sudden it was like, wow, it sounds like a hit. And we edited it and we, made it work. The first thing I did was make them play the didgeridoo in tune. You know, a lot of Australians, Indigenous people play didgeridoo, right? But they just play in any key, but, because when you hear it, it's an Aboriginal instrument. But the problem with me was they're almost always out of tune. So I was like, you cannot have that. That thing's playing in C sharp and we're playing in D. It sounds awful. I can't do it. And so a guy went out into the forest and hacked down all these things and came back like 2 days later with a bunch of them different lengths, and we marked them out. This one's in C, this one's in D. And so on every song, so what happened was that song came out so great, they ended up having me produce the whole rest of the record. And we had cutting these digits in different key lengths so they'd be in the right keys. These are experiences for me that are so exciting because I've never done anything like that. But on my way to work with them, I stopped in Fiji, and I brought Adam Beach with me, the actor Adam Beach, who you all know. So Adam met me in Fiji because I was going into some villages with a company called GiveCleanWater.org, and they were cleaning up dirty water that a lot of the villages had really sick kids, and people were dying and sores all over their body, and they were taking water straight out of the river in these villages, and it was a problem. And Sawyer Water and Give Clean Water told me they had a solution for this, and I said, I want to see this. So I flew down there and I brought Adam Beach because I wanted Adam to see it. And we went into villages and met the chiefs and did all these things. I played music and Adam took pictures. But it was really, really rural. I mean, they didn't even really know, they didn't know who I was, and they didn't know who Adam Beach was. And, but we went and we put water filtration systems in these villages, and we learned about it. And within 2 weeks, kids were literally 99.9% better. Just from drinking clean water, cleaned out their system, sores went away, dysentery went away, kids stopped missing school, parents stopped missing work. It just was a big winner. And I said to Sawyer Water, I said to my guy Daryl Larson at GiveCleanWater.org, I said, okay, so why am I halfway around the world or 3/4 of the way around the world down here in Fiji doing this when we could be doing it back home? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, what are you talking about? I go, in Indian country, man, there's no clean water in so many places. He's like, what are you talking about? So he goes, let me research this. So about 2 weeks later, I was coming back from Australia and I get a phone call. He goes, oh my God, I found 1,400 communities in North America that are on boil alerts and have no clean water. He goes, nobody knows this. People in America just assume, and people in Canada just assume that it's a civilized country and everybody has these things. And it's just not the case. And I thought, this is something I got to get to work on. So I work with a charity on Six Nations called the Dreamcatcher Charitable Foundation. It's an Indigenous charity for Indigenous people. We've given out probably $25 million in funds for different things, building parks and for kids having a place to play, building sports facilities, sending families on trips, all kinds of stuff, did the mini hockey leagues. And so we started to get into a whole thing, but we couldn't get the government to do it. So we're just going to do it ourselves. We started working with Give Clean Water and Sawyer Water. And we went into a reserve north of Thunder Bay called Nasagusa Masa. I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce it. Nasagusa. It's super long. It's like the longest word I've ever seen. And we flew in on a float plane, and we started to, we fixed their water there. And while I was there, a woman was there and she told me about a young girl who was a water protector named Autumn Pelter. And I was like, what? And she told me the whole story about her aunt and everything. And I go, I've got to meet this person. I've got to meet this person. And so meanwhile, Brian Porter and I on Six Nations had started a new film company called Seeing Red Six Nations. And I said, I really want to do a documentary about this young lady because we want to bring more attention to the water issues in North America and in Canada and in Indian countries. And so I got together with a director I like to work with named James Burns, who's a senior director at Vice in New York City. And I put together a team of people and we made this film called The Water Walker. And it made its debut at TIFF. And it's made its American debut at Doc NYC. And it's just like been kicking ass, just traveling nonstop. It's just doing really well. And she's a super inspiring person.
She is. She lives here on Manitoulin Island. And yeah.
Well, she moved. She just moved.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
oh, that's great.
Yeah, she just moved to Ottawa.
Oh, Ottawa. Beautiful, beautiful. So Stevie, having all of this success, doing all these things and all this work, what advice do you have for artists looking to think bigger, whether it's advocacy or going international or something else?
First of all, I'm going to say something that I think is becoming a real issue. And I try. I'm not a fan of racism of any kind, and that includes me being racist towards other people. And I found that if you really want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with the best people possible. Best. I don't care if they're from Mars or Jupiter or Harlem or Holland. I don't care. If they can teach me and get me to a higher level, I want to be around them. And I'm finding lately, we're doing this thing as Indigenous people where we're saying, only Indigenous people can work on this Indigenous thing and this Indigenous blah, blah, blah. And I'm just telling you, what I learned from playing with Mick Jagger, I couldn't have learned in 10 years or 20 years in school or in a school. What I learned from working with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, I couldn't have learned in a lifetime. What I learned from Bootsy Collins or even Justin Timberlake, and what he learned from me couldn't be taught to him in a lifetime, and he could, So I've seen lately, that if we keep doing this, I came to APTN. I got asked, I was mixing a record in 2006, and a woman from APTN came to me and she said, hi, I wanted to meet you. I know you're globally successful, blah, blah, blah. If you could do your own TV show, what would you do? And I pitched this show, Arbor Live, about these three guys who don't know what they're doing and they have a variety show and they constantly screw everything up. And we ended up doing a show, as you know, you were on my show, that's where I met you. And I gotta tell you, I said to the network, I go, the problem is with APTN right now is you have all these people on the show all the time. You always have Derek Miller and George Leach, and they're all great, they're all fantastic. But the audience already knows them and loves them. We're not building an audience. We're keeping our audience content, but we're not expanding. So I go, I'm going to put Motley Crue on the show, and I'm going to put Scorpions on the show, and I'm going to bring Chad from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and put him on the show. And they're all like, really? I go, yeah. And not only did they, like in Rumble, everybody wanted to be in Rumble. They wanted to be on Arbor Live. They wanted to be introduced to Native American people. They wanted to know more about us. And they also brought in another audience that would flip through the channels and go, that's Chili Peppers. What the hell are they doing on APTN? And they'd watch the show. And while watching the show, they'd learn about Veronica Johnny. You know what I mean? Oh, I never heard of that chick. She's cool. That's how you grow. So if we're going to start going Indigenous only, you can't tell our story. You can't film our story. That's a huge mistake. I'm sorry. And I know people are going to probably give me hate letters now, but you cannot grow. We do not have enough skill set yet. Robbie Robertson had to learn from somebody to be one of the greatest in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he had to leave Indian country. Pretty soon we won't have to leave Indian country. That's the goal. Pretty soon we'll be able to because we'll have enough global experiences. But the inner club of not putting yourself in a position of vulnerability. We do that a lot where I'm safe with you guys because you guys all tell me how great I am all the time. everybody's great, but everybody can be better. And you don't want to have people putting you down, but you also don't want to have people just telling you you're great all the time and you don't get any better. And I'm just thinking, this is my biggest concern, because, honesty, a lot of people don't want to hear honesty. But man, I used to have people tell me, what the hell are you doing? What is that? Do you call that a lyric? And I could have said, whatever, you crazy? But I'd say, well, that guy's sold 10 million records. Maybe I just better shut up, cool my ego out, and see what I can learn. Doesn't mean he had to be my friend later on, but damn if I'm not going to learn from him and take from him what I can get. And that's my biggest concern right now. If you want to get global, you got to surround yourself with the best. And we spend enough money. I see a lot of my friends spend as much money as any other friends of mine around the world on their projects, on their films, and on their music. But if you want Martin Scorsese in your movie, he's in my movie. I never met him before. I just ask. Sometimes all you got to do is ask, right? If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's right. That's right. And that's what I did with you too, Stevie.
I'm working for free, but I don't mind.
Well, you'd made it.
Hold on, I want to tell you something. I told Kevin, guitarist and mixer, just Shine Down and all that stuff, the guy who I just mixed your new track with. I said, I want to do something, Kevin. We don't have any money. I go, let's just do this because I want to show my friends in Indian country what something could actually be. And when I listened to your track this morning, I listened to it for fresh ears before he mastered. I actually made one little move on the vocal too. I slide your vocals around so your pockets just, I gotta, you put everything in pocket. That's what a producer does. And I listened to it and I go, man, this is really good. It's really good. It's like the best garage punk rock record of all time as of lately, right? You can get on the Underground Garage now with Stevie Van Zandt or something. I guarantee you he'll add it, I'm sorry to off, but I wanted to do that because I just want to get people to understand it. You can surround yourself with great people and let them be great with you, for you, and let them teach you, because we don't know everything.
Absolutely. And that's why, when you were asking me questions about the TV mix and stuff like that, I'm like, whatever you want to do, Stevie, I'm here learning from you. I want you to kind of help me see what and so what are artists in Canada overlooking? What do you think that artists in Canada are overlooking?
Okay, so in 2006, I think it was, or 2005, I don't know. I remember a girl I used to work with in Canada. I used to work with two really big Canadians in the 90s, Sass Jordan, who I wrote a lot of her biggest songs with her and produced her stuff that was pretty killer. And then I worked with Jeff Healey, who was amazing, a blind guitar player, Jeff Healey. I worked with him, wrote songs with him. And what I learned from them was they came to me in America and they said that the Canadians got an issue with either they want you to be successful, but if you get too successful, they want to pull you back down. It's got crabs in the bucket thing they used to always say. And another thing they said was, often a guy just won't look at you and go, this sucks. He'll be like, yeah, it's really, really great in its own way. It's special. And I'm always like, this either is no good or it's do it again. And people often hate that directness, but I don't think there's enough time in the world. If you're going to be honest, it doesn't mean that if you hire me and I tell you to do it again because I think it stinks, you might be right and I might be wrong. But all I know is what I know. And I found in Canada that everybody's like, yeah, but people used to say to me, Arbor Live had an issue. First season, we had all distorted audio, and I was furious. And in second season, we had another technical issue that shouldn't have been there. And one time, some of the guys that worked with me said, yeah, but it's still better than anything else on APTN. And I was like, well, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Is it as good as Gone with the Wind? Is it as good with, as American Idol? I worked on American Idol with 30 million viewers a week. Is it quality? Is the songwriting as good as the biggest bands in the world? Is the production as good? Is it lit as good? So just because you're on a smaller label or a smaller network doesn't mean you still have enough money to get it right. But what people often do is they hire their friends, then they don't want to yell at their friends, and they want, and they don't want to push. But I think people need to push themselves up all the time, and some people just can't take that. I think that like Christina Fawn, who did Rumble with me, she's getting ready to do a gigantic series about the 60s scoop. And she, in the olden days, would have been like, this is really good. It's beautiful the way it is. Now she's like, no way. I want Jeremy Podesma to be our director. And she's going for this gusto because what she figured out in Rumble, if you don't ask, you don't get. You'd be surprised what people want to do for you. I got my buddy, Kevin Guitarist and me, we mixed you a song for Peanuts because we just wanted to do it. We were happy to do it and we were excited to do it. And, if you never would have asked, I wouldn't have known,
Thanks, Stevie. Dave and I love the mix. We were cruising down the road today with it on full blast and just thinking, oh my goodness, like it's a different song. And just, the way we changed it, it's incredibly powerful. I can hear it on the radio, and I hope I have the precognition to see that it goes to #1 too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, first of all, you got to send it to Underground Garage, Stevie Van Zandt. It's their kind of song. And maybe
Done.
Stevie Van Zandt, is all into the Indigenous people. He's the guitar player for Bruce Springsteen, but he used to have Renegade Radio, and he had, he's got all, he's the guy that stopped apartheid. He started the whole thing when he did the song Sun City. And I never even heard of Sun City when I was in high school. And all of a sudden, ain't gonna play Sun City. And he got all those people to boycott South Africa, which led to Mandela being free. And I mean, Stevie Van Zandt is a god among men, and I love him, and he's gonna love your track for sure.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Thanks so much for supporting me and supporting the Johnnies and our music. And there's so much regarding water issues in the music. There's lots about climate change. And that's what I keep saying, as the Indigenous advisor for Climate Life Canada, which is a part of Music Declares Emergency, I keep saying that musicians have more of a voice than politicians. We have the ability to change people's minds. And your story just illustrates that so well about the effect that we can have with our art on the world and each other. So I'm just really inspired. And I think we have to open it up for question and answer period. Hey, Gray, do you want to come back on and do a little bit of that?
Sure.
Yeah, I would love to. Just like loving this convo. I'm just going to write in the Facebook messages here to encourage folks to write. Please write.
Encourage folks to understand that I'm sweating right now because I just got done working out and I got an hour off my schedule. That's why I have my towel on. I'm trying to look like one of those. It's not my ascot.
We do have some comments that I can share off of Facebook, and I know there's some. We're streaming to YouTube as well, so I think there's some comments from there. So I'll just read them out just to share. So Forest Eagle Speaker, he's from the North Sound, really terrific country alt country duo. And so he's saying, Rumble changed how I see myself as an Indigenous person. It's life-changing. It's amazing. I have so much gratitude for that movie. And we've got DJ OG Cree says, love Brian Wright McLeod. He offered the youth the chance to experience working with radio way back during my early 20s. That's where my passion for recording began. DJ OG Cree also says, thank you for saying that, Ari, working with non-Indigenous people. So I've shared on here that folks can ask questions. I know there's a bit of a delay between us and what's being broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. So as things kind of roll in, I know I'll read them out and all that stuff too. But I really like the fact that you brought that up about like working with Indigenous folks. I think, for me personally, it's about if there is someone that I know who's Indigenous, who has those skills and who is possibly being overlooked, it's important for me to try and like be like bring folks into those opportunities or make sure like, hey, like we're going to make sure that you're going to get some income and you're going to get a chance to put, your efforts out and to really like shine and have that opportunity to share. But I also recognize there are times too about like you're building your family and you're building like your musical, artistic, and also just kind of like personal group of folks that, like you said, like you can learn from. So I know for me, working on my album, I usually work with a mix of Indigenous and non-Indigenous folks, or folks who are Indigenous to other parts of the world. So I tend to just kind of go like, who do I who do I vibe with on a level that like, yeah, they'll tell me I don't really like that, or like I think we can do better than that, and that's what I want too. So I'm happy you brought that up. I think, you know, it's important to really to balance that out and be like what's going to be best for the music and for this art, and what's going to be best for like my personal and artistic development, and also what's going to be good for community. And it's not always going to be the same answers for every project that you do. And yeah,
when you go do a project, you figure out, okay, Veronica Johnny, the Johnnies, okay, kind of like the Ramones, okay, so kind of blah, blah, their marketplace is this is their audience, okay. Ed Stasium is my neighbor, and he produced the best Ramones albums ever made, 10 of them. Okay, so I call Eddie. Eddie, can you mix this album for me for the Johnnies? And he goes, man, that's awesome, sure. You try to plug yourself into positions where you can succeed and you have like-minded people around you, but they're not yes men. They're not here to tell you how, great you are all the time, unless you're really great, because then it's real, right? Then it's real. And so you're right about that. Surround yourself with the best people. I'm not saying, like what happened, let's just say with, Michelle Latimer, maybe that is not, nobody should be who they're not. Mm-hmm. And nobody should, I would think that if she was just a regular white person like she is, she brought a lot to the community. I mean, Crystal Lightning, she made her like a star, and she didn't have to do it as pretending to be somebody else. She could have done it as who she was. And that was the problem, because she could be doing a lot of good for everybody if she's just would have been who she was. But, the problem is that she got intoxicated by the power and the money. And then there's this thing that I find in Indian country that I don't like. And I call it the King Indian syndrome, where you come in and around everybody else, you're humble, but then you get around the Indians and now you're like, you become the oppressor, which you grew up not somebody oppressing you. You know what I mean? That thing. And that's a problem too. I think everyone gets to just get over all that horse shit, because at the end of the day, you want to be great, you want to work hard, and you want to be inspired. And it's hard to do, but if you do your best, you can go to sleep every night and wake up in the morning and not hate yourself. You know what I mean? And you can be yourself. But I suggest everyone search out and surround themselves with whatever their dream team is. Before they ask the second choice, they should at least ask the first choice and hear the answer no before they move on. A lot of people give up before they even get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. That's such great advice, Stevie.
You know what I mean? I mean, look at Rumble. It's full of the most rocks. I mean, look at Arbor Live, okay? My first episode was Motley Crue. All I did was call Tommy Lee and tell him about it. And he goes, man, I want to get to know those Native American people up there, man. I've never been to Moose Jaw. Where's Moose Jaw? And it's like, he was excited to do the show. All I had to do was ask. And with Rumble, I would call and I just say, this is what we're doing. They're like, man, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. It's like, you'd be surprised what you get when you ask.
It's so true. I think though, I came across this thing recently about like, some of us are used to ask culture, and some of us are used to offer culture. So if someone doesn't offer you, if you say something that would be like, man, I wish I had a place to stay tonight, and if someone doesn't offer, then you don't ask, because you see asking as being rude.
Yeah.
And then you have
also,
people, but I'm
rude. I'm rude as can be, because I'm so driven as a kid. I was so driven as a kid. I grew up with not a lot, but I had an amazing father who supported me, and I didn't need a lot. And I just felt like there was no reason why I couldn't do anything. I grew up in a place in San Diego where I was by the Marine Corps base where my father had worked. That's why he moved from the country and outside of Cheyenne, Wyoming there, and I was born there. My mother lived up along the border of Arizona and New Mexico. And she moved there, and that's where I was born. And because of the Marine Corps base, I was surrounded with black kids, white kids, green kids, purple kids. I didn't see color. So I didn't have a feeling that I couldn't do anything. I mean, quite honestly, I was a rock and roll guy, but the first guy I ever made a record with was George Clinton from Parliament Funkadelic. I mean, he didn't see color, thank God, you know what I mean? So I just think that somehow we're getting brainwashed to think that we're all constantly getting screwed. And we are sometimes, let's face it. But Robbie Robertson said in the movie Rumble, he said, everybody told me you know, you've been on Six Nations and everything. Hey, he goes, I want to have a career in music. He goes, no, you don't want to do that. That kind of stuff doesn't happen to guys like us. And he said to me, he goes, I just couldn't hear it. I just couldn't hear it. And so he just went and did it. Slim Jim Phantom from the Stray Cats. I don't know if you guys know who the Stray Cats are, but Slim Jim is one of my best friends. He's the drummer of a band called the Stray Cats, and they were huge, millions of albums sold. And he told me one day, he goes, I was just too stupid to know I wasn't good enough to make it. And so I made it. You know, so sometimes you just got to get all that stuff out of the way. You know, Logan Stats worked so hard. He came to me in the streets in Austin, Texas, saw me and run over and kissed my hand. And like, you know, he wasn't ashamed to ask for anything. And I'm super happy to help every way I can. You know, I can't always help, but he wasn't afraid to ask. And if you're going to be in the arts, you want to surround yourself with great people and ask for help. And you also want to give help when you can as well. Don't just take it. Right? That's why I gave Veronica Johnny a mixture track. I'm never going to make a penny off that track, but it made me feel good to do it. And you know what I mean? Brian Wright McLeod turned me on to so much information, which became Rumble. And he is the true inspiration of the film Rumble. It's really his work. And what happened was, with Brian, I was working at Canadian Idol with a Canadian Idol named Kaylin Porter in the early 2000s. And I had hooked up Brian with the producers of Canadian Idol and the manager of the Tragically Hip, and they were going to help him get a TV series, which would have been like Rumble, going to go with his book. Well, they spent years and they just couldn't get it done. And I just woke up one day and said, I'm going to get it done. And I got it done. And I was just able to do that. But it was Brian's information that lit the spark and set it all off on fire. So, you know, it wasn't all me.
Absolutely. It takes a team, right? The IPA team here has been incredible, just delivering so many amazing workshops, incredible discussions, panels since COVID started. And so I'm really grateful that we got to spend some time with you on IPA Online while we could. And I think we have to save some time for saying thank you to all of our sponsors too. Hey, Gray? It's probably right around that.
Yeah.
I'd like to go take a shower. I just literally came in. You, Veronica, you were on in 5 minutes. I'm like, I was like a mile and a half away. I was just like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. All right. So am I done then?
Yeah, Miigwech, thank you very much for joining us.
You guys. Tell your sponsors that hi. And I'm sure I'm going to see all you guys again real soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. If people want to support you, where can they go see you? StevieSalas.com. Yes?
Yeah. Or, you know, they always write me on Instagram and on Stevie Salas Official, and on there's a couple of different Facebook pages, and Seeing Red Six Nations for our film company and stuff like that. I'm around, you know, I'm always around.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with us, Stevie. We'll see you again real soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Take it easy.
Right on. So just also want to say miigwech to Veronica Johnny for having that awesome conversation with Stevie. And also want to say, you know, miigwech to IPA for hosting these weekly workshops and discussions. I always learn a ton, and it's amazing that we just get to like log on and just learn, you know. And so miigwech to IPA, the Indigenous Performing Arts Alliance. I want to say miigwech, thank you, merci beaucoup to Toronto Arts Council, to Ontario Arts Council, and to the Department of Canadian Heritage for supporting this workshop series. So miigwech to all of you. And I hope that you stay tuned for IPA's for more announcements on upcoming workshops. You can follow IPA on their Facebook page. I know there's also a newsletter that you can subscribe to, so that you get those kind of weekly updates as to what's going on IPA's side. So thanks again, Veronica.
Yeah, thanks, Gray. I'm so glad that you're a part of this. I was just like, oh my goodness, am I gonna have to do Gray's job? And I'm just like, so good. I'm so glad you were here, and that you're amazing. You bring such incredible energy and questions and insight. And so, yeah, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can follow me at Veronica Johnny Music, or at the Johnny's Official on Facebook, or at the Johnny's Rock on Instagram and Twitter. But also, I want to give a giveaway. I'm so excited about this track with Stevie. It's called Leathers and Feathers. It's the title track off our album. Stevie remixed it, and so we're giving away this track to anyone who signs up to our newsletter. So just go to thejohnnies.com. Right at the bottom, you'll see a place to follow our email list and become a part of that. And we'll be giving away the track to anyone who is on our email list. So please subscribe and follow us wherever we are on social media. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep on rocking.
Yeah. Miigwech for sharing that. I'm gonna sign up right now.
Awesome.
Share that on the IPA page here, so that folks can click on that and sign up and hear that song. I want to hear that song.
Well, it's not out yet, but if you'll get a version as soon as it's out.
Okay, right on. All right, and so one last thing. I can talk forever, but one last thing is for more great Indigenous music, check out the Toronto Music Festival happening this weekend. You can go to tkmf.ca to see all the amazing music that will be performed online and hopefully in person sometime soon. So, please head to the website, check that out. I got to be a part of it last year, and I just thought it was an excellent lineup, and it's, a great team and a great festival.